Hello everyone, Alex here from alexlancer.com, and in this second part of our Auto CRUD Generator tutorial, we will go through how to create an add form and the edit form. So, in the previous part of this series, we have left off with the auto-generated table that is also a searchable table. So if you have followed the previous tutorial, you might find some small differences. For instance, the labels of the columns. I have fixed them here, and in this tutorial I will show you how we can generally customize our columns and how we can set even some rules, validation rules for them. So don't worry, we will check this out in a bit. What we will do in this tutorial, here is a quick overview. So we will go to the add page. So this is how we will structure our form, and don't worry, even this split it in half columns, we will be able to adjust all of this as our needs required. So, for example, here we will go and fill the form with some data, and for example, I will add a different password from the password confirm field. Once I go and try to submit it, you will see that we will get an error message. Or another example, what we could also do here, again, we will go to fill our table. So, as you can see, we have this asterisk here, the red one, which actually indicates that the field is required. So if I go and remove the value from this field and try to submit, first of all, we will get the front-end validation check. But let's say we remove this. We will remove this check, so we will remove this required from here. And let's try and submit it again. And as you can see, we are getting also a backend validation error, which is generated by CodeIgniter validator class. So in this tutorial, we will see how we create all of this. It is really simple. Once we go through all the files that we have to create, actually not the files, we will extend our CRUD core file that we created in our previous tutorial, again with the help of the GitHub files, which I have prepared for you. So don't worry, there will be no need to type a lot. So again, let's successfully submit this form. And here you go. Once we pass the validation, this is the edit user form now. Of course, we can also, let's say, Kate, change the name. Okay, so of course you see that the password from here is missing. It's missing on purpose because I believe in our next tutorial we will see how we can split some parts of our table in different forms. Because, for example, we don't want always to update the password. Therefore, it would make sense to store a password in a different form. Okay, so we will not go in this tutorial, we will not see in this tutorial how we can do that, but we will go in the next one. Generally, we will see how we can customize and override the default behavior of our Auto CRUD library. So, let's get started. First of all, go and Google for Alex Lancer GitHub. And go to my profile page on the GitHub, go to repositories, let's go to CodeIgniter CRUD library tutorial files, okay, and download the part 2 for our tutorial. So click the download button and you should be fine. I have already downloaded this file, and so this is my test URL. I will go to the development URL. So let's go to crud.test. Okay, and we will start together with you from where you have left off in previous series. So as you can see, if I go add user now, there is nothing yet created. So I will open the project in Visual Studio Code. Let me close everything. Okay, I want to start clean. So we don't need this, we don't need that. Let's leave libraries. Okay, so I have my notes also here. Okay, so first things first. Let's go to our part2.zip file, unzip it of course, and let's grab the main file from there, which is the CRUD core.php. So let me put it here. I will copy it inside. So I will copy everything from this file and I will replace the existing CRUD model.php with it. Sorry, not the model, the CRUD core. Okay, so as you can see now, before you update your file, we have around 270 lines. So once you paste the file from the part2 folder, you will see that the line count has changed quite a bit. So what has been changed? Well, first of all, I want to start from the top, and I have added few more, actually one more, if I'm being correct, one more variable here. So I have added the validator, which is by default equal false, because we will use this validator to validate our fields. Next, inside the constructor, so the helper form, which before was, let me check where it was, control find, so which before was inside the items table, I have moved the helper form inside the construct method because we will use it quite a bit throughout through the whole life cycle of the CRUD core library. So it would make sense to load it right on every time we use this file, so the CRUD core file. Okay, so after that, some small changes are at the bottom. I have created some helper functions so that I can get the table name, the base name, the base value, sorry, and get add title. I think we had this from before, and get edit title. Sorry guys. Get table title. Okay, so yeah, in the previous part we had only the get table title. Now we have get add title and get edit title. Okay, so all of these helper methods are just returning the values of our protected variables. So this is how it goes. Now let me save this and let's go to our users users. So to get started, we actually have to create to get started with the add form. Okay, so let's do that first, and we have to actually create the add method. So let's say pub function add. Okay, and now one second. So, and now in our add method, the first thing that we will need to get is the form. So the form itself, because the form, all the HTML of our form that we'll be displaying is being created in our CRUD core file. So I will type the method here, how we can get it. Also, let's store it in a second variable. I like to do that sometimes because if I want to use again somewhere inside the add method this form value, I don't like to type it as an array. So I would use some sort of a shortcut. So, and I will say this CRUD form. So be aware that inside of our CRUD core file there is no method form. There is a method parent form, and the reason that we are calling the form method, it is because we have this inside of our crud.php file, which extends the CRUD core, and this form method returns actually the parent form. So therefore we will be working inside of our parent form method of CRUD core.php file. So don't get confused if you see the form method to be called on our inside of our controller. And again, the reason for that is just so that you can keep the custom stuff that you will be doing depending on your project needs. You can do it inside your crud.php file, and but the CRUD core file would stay unchanged. So with the basic functionality that we will give it throughout this tutorial. Okay, so now we have, this is how we create our form. So basically this is the HTML string based on our on the provided values from the field options, and we will see how we can improve and enhance all of this fields here by adding extra validation rules, by adding even classes, helper texts, and other stuff like that. Even we can also change the type of the field that the way it will be displayed. So will it be a date field? Maybe we want to make it a text area field, or even an editor field. I will show you all of that in this tutorial. So once we have created this form, I also would like to get the title as a variable. So we will say this. So this where the helper functions come into play. So get table title. Okay, get add title, actually, not table title. Okay, so this get add title basically will give us back this string here. So we have our title here, and now we will say return. So we will load our view. Let's say admin users add. Okay. Well, now let's go to our admin users folder. So here it is. And now here I have to create a new file that we will name add. Actually, let's name it form.php because we will use the exactly same file and for the edit and for the add methods. Okay, so let's name it form. Let's change this to form. That looks fine. And inside of our form.php file, we will say, first of all, this extend. We extend the admin layout main. Okay. Next, we say the section that we want to extend. So we say section content. Okay. So this is all related to our layout main.php file. So let's close our section by saying this end section. and in between we will echo our form. So that's all that we need for our form.php file. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's save this and let's see what this does. So let's go to add user. I will zoom a little bit. So, okay, namespace declaration statement has to be the very first. Okay, that's some crazy stuff going on with my. So actually, maybe you will get this error also. This is due to auto formatting from Visual Studio Code. So be careful with that. Let me see. So yeah, you see the CRUD core on line 3 generates this error. So let's go at the very top. And you see the space here? This is what causes the error. So remove the space before the PHP tag. Maybe I will fix it actually inside the part 2 zip file so that you don't have this. Okay, so refresh again. Admin users form. Okay, let me check again. So we have our users add. Users add, return, yeah, of course, return view. And of course, data we have to pass here. So let's reload it. So view exception, admin layout, because it is admin layouts, I guess. Yeah, it is a plural, so layouts. Refresh. And here you go. So this is our form, how it looks. First of all, before we dive into CRUD core file, let's fix these labels here. So as you remember in our previous tutorial, we have changed these 2 labels. So let's change the other ones also. Let's go to users PHP field options. Let's make a few copies here. So the first one is our email. Let's name it email. The second column, the fourth column will be the status, and we will change it to status. Then we have a created add field. Let's make it a created add. And what else we need? So let's add here at the top also the label for our ID field, because although it is not displayed in the forms, it is displayed inside the table. So the table column, the header names are also being adjusted from these options here. So let's say label. And just say it, and let's set it as ID. So let me check what else we have there from the fields. Okay, the password also. So email status created add. So the order that we specify the options here, I mean the order of the fields, does not play any role in the way they will be displayed inside your form. What actually makes the difference is the order of the columns that you have inside your database. So if you want to move something higher or lower, you will have to use phpMyAdmin or other user interface to adjust the order of your columns. So keep that in mind. So label for password will be also password. So refresh, and as you can see, all of our fields have already names. So check out this. First of all, by default, most of the fields are text fields. Okay, so these are all text fields. Same for password also. although the status is actually a drop-down without me doing anything. It is all defined inside the CRUD.php file. So also the same goes for the created add, because it is a datetime field inside of our MySQL database. Our CRUD library understands that and by default sets it as a datetime picker field, as a datetime field using the datetime picker library. Okay. So let's see now inside of our CRUD.php file what is going on there. Okay, so we're calling our parent form method, as we said. So it is the form, but inside the form refers also to the parent form. So let's go here and let's check our parent form. So this is where everything starts when we are talking about generating the form. So first of all, our library will initiate the string of form, and by the end of this method, of this parent form method, we will return the HTML code that will be stored inside this form variable. Also, we are storing our post request, if it exists, inside in a post variable by using this request get post. Okay, so the very first check that I do on line 101 is I'm checking if is set post form. So basically this is one of the ways to check if the form is being submitted. Okay. And in every form that we generate for our add field, for our add forms or edit forms, the hidden field with the name of form is being added, so that we know that our forms are being submitted inside of our CRUD library. So I'm just using this for a check here to see if the post is actually in progress. And immediately after that, I unset the form variable because we don't need it in our tables, MySQL tables. Okay, so if we see that there is some sort of a post again, we will run all the validation. But I don't want to stop now on the validation. I want to see just simply the HTML stuff. So, for example, when we are opening the add user form for the first time, there is no post. So all of this is being skipped. And this is where our form starts and gets generated. So we start with a basic div class card and card primary. We are setting up our header, our title. This is all from the admin LT HTML code. So I've got it from, I think here, from the forms. Yeah. So this is what you will see, what we will generate. So basically I got this example as a base to work with. And this is what we are outputting inside of our CRUD file. So we start here with our card title. Now the title is based on the action, of current state of the CRUD library. So the action is being defined. The action is being defined. Let me check where it is defined. I don't remember that actually. So I will bookmark the line 202. I will move at the top. So we have this action here, which by default is an add, has the value of add. Okay. So if this action equals add, which is by default, then we show the form title add value. In other case, we show the form title update. So basically there are two scenarios for the action to be set as add or as edit forms, depending on which form we are. So also we start our form open tag. So this is CodeIgniter's way to open a form, and I have created the base here. The URL, the action URL, so where our form will be submitted. And by default, we use the base, then we use the table name, and I will explain what the base means. And then we use this. Again, we are checking if it's an action of add, then we want it to be table. So let me write this down here, type it. So let's say we are on our add form. So the action attribute of our add form would be users. So users is our table, and the action would be add. Okay. So this is the URL that our form will be submitted to. And this base, if you remember in our users.php controller, so we have this base. It is empty for now. But when it is useful if you would store your users controller inside of a subfolder. So for instance, you would have a subfolder with the name of inside of your controllers, of course. You would have an admin subfolder, and from within that admin subfolder, you would create all of your CRUD files. Then you would have to specify the subfolder path. So you would say that your base is, for example, sorry, got lost here. So that your base is actually admin. If you would have more folders, you would go on and you would say second subfolder. Okay, so this is when the base is useful. By default, it is empty. So back to our CRUD core, I will remove this. And so, as we said, our action here is being automatically generated based on the action and based on the state of our CRUD, either it is an add form or edit form. So also, as you can see here, if it would be an edit form, we would also add the ID, which we automatically get from the primary keys of our current record that we are editing. So this is how we start the form. After that, you will see that we have this variable fields, and so the fields, I think, let me check. So now I will remove the bookmark from this line. I will add it to this line. So guys, by the way, the bookmarks are very, very helpful, especially if you have a mouse with the buttons that you can program. They're very useful because you can, in large files, when you have thousands of lines, you can really set up a mouse button to create a bookmark, and then another button to loop through bookmarks, and without searching for your fields all over again. So for instance, if I go somewhere here, I can click a button and I am going back to my bookmark. Awesome, right? So that said, let's check what is these fields. I don't remember. I think it is the get field option. So we have our fields. Yeah, it is array of field options that we have. So this is this comes from our controller, and then we have our this schema. So we take our schema, the schema of our table, we loop through every field, and based on every actually we are comparing every field to the options that we have specified in our controller. And for example, some of the options that we can pass in our fields. The very first check is if, so the schema field, if it has an extra option of auto increment, basically it means that this is our primary key and we don't want to render it in our form, right? Therefore, I have a continue statement here, so we just pass this loop right away. And we go to the next field. So then I'm checking. We will have the possibility to specify which fields will be only edit fields, which fields could be only add fields. So for example, as you saw in the beginning of the tutorial, I showed you that we had the password on the add form, but there was no password on the edit form. So this is how we do it. We say that only we specify an option to that field by going to users. So let's go to users. Here I say comma, only add equals true. So this will add the password field only to the add form. Okay, so I will leave it for now here. So let's go back to CRUD core. So the same goes for the edit. You can specify which fields you want to be only on the edit page. For example, we can say that we can say that created add, we don't want this field to be on the add form because we want to auto-generate it. Okay, so first, of course, we have to specify inside of our MySQL. Let's define the default value for the user's created add column. So let's go to our CRUD users structure. Okay, so we have specified that user created add is by default the current timestamp. Okay, so what will happen if we can say only edit? We go to users controller, created add. We say only edit equals true. So what this will do, it will auto-generate the user with an automatic timestamp. And then inside of our edit form, we will be able to change it if we want to. So now, let's check other options. Let me remove everything that I type. So here we are. So only add, only edit, that's fine. Now we can also specify the type. So here I'm checking if the type, if the field type is defined and if it is unset. So we can force to unset some fields on both, not only on edit or only on add forms, but on both forms. So in this case, we would go and say that, let's say users again, which field we could unset here. So the ID, any primary key of the table will be automatically unset. So no worries about that. But let's say we want to unset our status. So we say type unset. Okay, and if we go and reload our form, you will see that we have password because it is only add form, but we don't have the created add field, and we don't have the created the status field, right? We have unset it. So let's open that again because we will need it. So another option here that we have in our CRUD core, another test that we are running. So yeah, basically these are the 4 tests which we are getting started with. Now, from there on, we are running all sorts of tests. For example, here we want to define, so we are getting the label based on our field options, and now we are defining the field type. So if the field type inside of our field options, if we have specified some specific type, so for example, if we have written type equals something, let's say email or number, so basically it is based on the input types that we have in HTML markup. Okay, so you can specify anything here. I think I did not prepare the radio buttons and the checkboxes. Okay, so we will do that later. So for now we will see, actually I don't remember which one I have created. So we check if the field type has been set it manually, or if it has not been set it manually, we will say we will get this field type from the schema. So based on the schema also, it is also an interesting part here. Don't be bothered for now with the relation. This is also for the next tutorial. We will use it. So let me check. So get relation items. No, this we are not interested in. Get field type. So let's check this method here. Okay, so in case we did not specify any specific type, we will fall back to this get field type. And here I have this this method here, which basically maps different types of MySQL data types to some sort of HTML input type. For example, if we have an enum field, enumerated field, we will return back again enum. So, and let's see what will happen in this case. So we go to the get field type again. This is here. Okay, so for example, we got the enum field back. So I'm checking if field type equals enum, and if the fields inside of so if I did not specify any specific values manually from within my fields options, this part will try to get the default values that you have defined in your MySQL fields. So for example, for the status, it will try to get these values here. Okay, so when you create a enum field, this is basically what you do. You specify the values that you want to be available to the user. So this is what happens here. But you can also specify your own values, and we will check that also by providing a field. Yeah, by providing some sort of a relationship. We will see this in a second, in a third part of our tutorial. So again, if we have an enum field, we get the values from our schema, and we set the field type as a select. So now the field types are being executed. Let me check where they're being used actually. So we have here. So we have field method. Okay, I predefined it with, I prefix it actually with a field underscore select. So I'm creating strings based on the field or based on each field type. So once we have the field method, we are now using, we go here a few lines under, and we are executing this method actually as a dynamic method inside of our CRUD library. So this field method, in a case of enumerated field, would be actually field where it is select. Okay, so but to avoid typing many times for each method this line here, we can also use we can use a variable that will represent the name of the method. So in this case, we know that we have the field select. So let's check the field select method, what it does. So not this, field select. Okay, sometimes it is easier to search. So field select. Okay, here it is. So we have this protected function field select with some values that we pass here, and basically what we do here, we create the inner part of our input. So by starting with a select field, and then we use the input wrapper, which creates the form, the divs actually before and after the select method, the select tag, and wraps it inside of a form group, which we need for when using CodeIgniter 4, Bootstrap 4. So another thing also here to notice that by default the enumerated fields will be created using the select2.js library. Okay, so basically in this CRUD library there are several types of, actually two types if I'm being correct, two types of dropdowns: the simple dropdown, which is the default HTML dropdown, and the field select dropdown, which uses the select2.js library. So you can use any of them, any choice you prefer. So here you see the field dropdown, and here is the field select. So the difference, the dropdown we use also for relational database, for relational fields. We will use them later also. And here we have the simple dropdown. So three types of dropdowns. We have simple dropdown, the dropdown where which we use when we want to take some values from another table. And we have the field select, which is loaded by default on all of the enumerated columns inside of your MySQL database. So now, as you saw while I was scrolling, there are several types of fields. Like we have not wrappers, okay? So we have field text, the default one. We have field password. We have field number. We have field select, the field dropdown, field simple dropdown, field checkboxes, and field email, field hidden, date time. So date time, again, the markup is ready. It is prepared to as date time as a datetime JavaScript library requires it to be. So you don't have to do actually nothing. It will work just by specifying that this is the type of datetime. Okay, so again, all the JavaScript files, the snippets, are already predefined. So for example, we have the datetime field, which has the JavaScript with the format, also related, specified the way we want it to be passed inside of our MySQL. So this is the format that we need. But then we have also the field date. So the field date has basically the same stuff here, with the only difference that the format is specified like that, because we don't need the time anymore. Now we have also the field text area. Okay, so text area will be loaded for any MySQL field that is the type of text. And another option that we have also, we can use the summer node, which is the HTML editor. So by specifying type equals editor, you will get back an HTML editor in your form. So let me see what else we have. That's it basically, and this will make this will be fine for most cases. Of course, if I've missed something, you can always comment this, and we will see how we can add this actually, a new type of field. Or you can use your crud.php file, and you can also go here and create the new let's say protected function field your type, and you can grab an existing field type to start as a base to help you get started, so that you don't need to type it from the beginning, and then just modify it per your needs. Okay, so I will remove everything from here that I have. Yeah, like that. Okay guys, so here at the top where we were going through each field in our schema, so some of them will be sorted out, and then we will define each field based on the type that we have provided, or based on the type that is specified in the database. So I don't want to jump into relations in this tutorial. We will see that in the next one. And also we have the option to specify in our field options. We can specify the helper text under our, so let's do that actually, I think. Yeah, let's go to our users controller, and let's say in our first name, so let's change the type to helper. I think it is helper, yeah. So type your first name, and we can also do the same for the last name. Okay, so let's see what will happen to our form here. This will add the two forms, the two helper text. Now we can also specify a class that we want. I will multi-edit both fields. So I will add class, and sorry, not like that, like that. And this here expects you to add the class of a grid from Bootstrap. So if you want it to be call 6, call 12, by default the call 12 is being loaded anyway. So if you want to change that, you can say that call 12. Let's say that this will be for a mobile device, but for the larger screens, we want it to be call SM6. And if we refresh this is what we get automatically. It gets arranged as we want. So if we will go and shrink that, okay, so call 12 comes into play here. Okay, let's go back. Another very, very useful option that I want to show you is regarding our password. So inside, specifically for the password fields, I have created two options. The one option is named confirm. So actually, before we do that, let's add type of password so that we have our asterisk in place. Let's say type password, confirm true, and also I will show you later one more option. So by specifying the confirm true, check out this part here. Let's try like that. We automatically get the password confirm field to work with. So we don't need to type it. It's being just created. And not only that, if we will try to submit our form now, and I will give the wrong value inside of password confirm, we will get the password confirmation field does not match. So all of this being generated automatically. Now let's go and actually successfully submit our form, and let's see what will happen there. So most likely we will get an 404 error because we did not create an edit form, and each time the add user form is successfully submitted, we are being redirected to the edit form of this newly created user. But anyway, let's try, because I want to see the database itself. So I have changed the details of the form. Add. We are getting this error. Okay. So now it is time actually to update our model file, which you can also, I guess, find inside of inside of the part 2 folder. So let's take that. Let me bring it here. So I will copy everything from this file. We'll close it, and we'll go to CRUD model, and we'll replace everything here. Okay, so the error that we were getting, the insert item method that was missing, is actually a newly created method that I created in this part. I think it is, here on the line 24. So it is nothing more than just a simple query builder set of methods. Okay, when we are creating the record, we are inserting the record, and then we are returning the insert ID of that created record. So with that said, let's try to resubmit our form, and now we are getting an error, but that's fine. Actually, we don't mind this. The insertion I believe was completed. So let's check that. Let's go to users. Let's sort them in an opposite. So the user 101. As you can see, although the user was created indeed, by the way, check out the time, works fine, even though we did not specify it. So we have one problem here with the password hash. So we can solve it just by specifying by giving one more option to our password. Let me check, is it a hash or 2 hash? I think it is hash. Users hash true. Okay, so let me close the GitHub here. Let's go again to our form, add it. Array to string conversion will fix later. So let me refresh this. No, I think the option is named somehow different. Hash So, okay, so it is password hash. So go to users and we say that password hash is true to our EU password field. And now if we will go to, let's close this also again and submit another user, let's go back, refresh. So, and now as you can see, the user has been submitted. The password has been encrypted actually. So the way it's being done inside of crudcore.php. So if we have a password hash field specified and it is true, the password hash option specified. So what happens here? The field is being stored inside of a variable. So the reason it is stored inside of a variable is because we might have multiple fields that we want to hash. So I didn't want to limit just to one field. So we have this 2-hash array, and if we go a little bit further, you'll see that we run a for each loop on this variable, and we hash the password by storing it back inside of our post variable, which is being initiated once we submit a form. So let's go back to, actually let's go and change to fix this array to string conversion. So the reason for this is that it is also a quirk of CodeIgniter 4 that we have to know. So let's go here again at the beginning of the parent form, as we said. So the first thing we do, we check if the form is being submitted at this very moment, at this specific request. So if it is submitted, we go through our fields and we check which fields we're supposed to check or not, to validate or not. If this is the add form, if this is the validation, if this is the edit form, if it's an only edit field, if it's an only add field. So all these checks are being done here. We are getting the labels, okay. So now we are checking if there is a required parameter. So the required parameter is also one of the options that we can pass inside of each of our tables that we want to be required. So for example, our first name, of course, we want it to be required. Okay, so I will say true, required. So this is how we specify a field that we want it to be required field. Okay, I will copy paste it inside of last name, inside of email, status, created that, we don't need it, I believe. But of course, our password also is required. So all of the fields are required here. Let me add this comma here. So by specifying these required fields, what we will see in our add form, all of the fields that we have specified that are required have added this asterisk character was added here. Also, all of the fields have the HTML required attribute enabled. That's also a good thing for our front-end validation. And I would like also to set our passwords to be the call 6 side by side, so that password and password confirmation sit side by side. Okay, so to do that, we have to specify again the class option only once. Okay, so actually let's make this. Let's add this here, this here, this here. So I will add class call 12 call sm6. Okay, so our password and password confirm fields are now side by side. What else can we do here? So let's go back to our CRUD core and check and continue to review what's happening here. So another field that is being not the field, another rule that is that I have predefined here is the unique rule. So for example, we want our email to be a unique field, and of course we will use a similar structure to the a similar syntax as we use in CodeIgniter. So we go to, let's say, to our email, we want to say unique, and we say let me check what we said, I don't remember. So if unique so we are getting if is set params 1. Okay, so I think we have to pass it as an array. I don't remember how I created it. It's funny. So unique field. Okay. So we pass it as an array by saying true. So we want this to be a unique field. And then I guess we specify the name of the field that we want to check against. So let's see if that works. Let's create a new user. I will copy this email and we will use it in the next submission. So add, okay, array to string conversion, going back, and now I will use again this email. Okay, so yeah, the syntax is correct. The email field must contain a unique value. So that's how we specify the uniqueness of the field, the unique rule. So the confirm option we just saw, and the password hash we also just saw. So if you want to add more rules to your Auto CRUD generator, you can always go and add some new rules inside here, or better inside your crud.php file. So okay, once we have set all the rules, so as you can see, I'm using set rule in all in these different cases. So once we have set up all of our rules, we come at this line here, and I'm checking if this validator with request. It is very important to use the with request method here to pass the request itself, and we use the run method to run our validation. So the no validation variable here, it is just a flag that basically says that is by default true. So if no validation, there is no reason to run the validation. And as you can see, the no validation becomes false whenever some of the rules are being specified. So we have also some unsets. Okay, I will not dive deep into it. So the unsets fields is a variable. For instance, the password confirm field will not be passed inside of our database. So it is temporarily being generated and then it's being unsetted. Okay, so we are hashing the fields, and now, so once we pass the validation, we are checking if the action is actually an add action. So if it is an add action, we will go and insert this item based on the fields and based on the successful validation using the CRUD model method insert item. Else, if the action is edit, we will go and update our item, again using the update item method inside of our CRUD model file. So there also we check that if the record exists, then we will be able to update it. If the record does not exist, unfortunately we will give an error. We will provide an error back. So what we have to change to fix this array to string conversion? So let's go here, okay. So the reason I wanted to go through this part is to come at this part here. So at this point where we are returning the redirect, basically either the insertion or the update is successfully completed. So because we cannot redirect from within our CRUD core library, we will return the URL that we want. We will return actually a URL to our controller back. So we will go here to our controller, okay, and inside of our users, inside of our add method here, we will say if form, actually not form, if is array form and is set form redirect. So if redirect key exists, then from here inside we will say return redirect, come on, redirect to this value here. Okay, so from our parent, so this all happens inside of our parent form method. So we have two types of returns here. So the one return is the HTML code of the form. Another return is basically an array with a redirect URL that we create. Therefore, I'm checking inside of our add method if it is an array and not just a string, then we will try to redirect the user to another location. Otherwise, we will return a view for our user form. So, having said that, we will copy all of it and we will create our edit method like that. Let's change this to get edit. Also get edit title, yes. So inside of our edit we are expecting the ID, of course, and before the form let's say if no. So before I do this, I want to instantiate, I want to save the current values of the form inside of a CRUD variable. So we say this CRUD current values. So there is a method current values by providing the ID. So this method, what it will do, it will store the current values inside of current values variable that we have inside of our CRUD. But I will take this form, method, sorry, and I will add it inside of our if method, if statement. So we will say if there is no CRUD, if there are no current values, so if it will return false, for sure we know that this user or this entry does not exist, and that's why what we want to do is we will want to redirect back to our table. I think that would make sense. So how we do that is, let me grab this piece of code. So remove this and we will say this CRUD get base, then this CRUD get table, and this will generate the URL that we want to be redirected. Actually, it will generate the URL where our table is located, so that we can start over again. Now, once we do this check, and in case it is successful, what we can do is, first of all, let's say that data, I always like to pass the data inside of the view, because time to time it is useful. So I'll specify item ID as equals ID. Again, if this redirection here stays the same, and let's just pass only one more get edit title. Yeah, we have it here. I think actually we are fine like that. So let's check. Let's see what's going on here. So back to our add user, fill the table, add, and perfectly fine. So as you can see, we are on edit user page. We see our email, we see our created ad. Remember, we did that to be visible only on the edit page. Okay, so the only thing that we have to do here is actually we have to fix some errors that we have in our console. Okay, and to do that, we will use now our let's change the main layouts file. So let's go open main layouts. So basically what I did, I moved all of the JS files, I moved them at the above the body, inside the header, because we run inline JavaScript, and some of the libraries should be loaded before we execute our code inside of our HTML. So this might be not ideal scenario for a website, let's say, because of course there you are worried about content blocking scripts, but usually in the backend it is not an issue, and especially when we are not dealing with the SEO speeds or so on, it is not that noticeable. So I will open the main.php file, which I have in from our helper files, copy all of it and paste it inside of our main.php in our project. Save that. And also, yeah, and I did not just move the files from the footer to the header. I have added there also the select to library. I think the datetime picker was already installed. Yeah, I have removed some demo JavaScript files that admin LT had there predefined. So let's check if the errors are gone. So we had these errors. Let me refresh. Okay, the JavaScript errors are gone. Let's see what's going on here now. So alerts.php. Yeah, because in our new main layout file, where it is, so I'm requesting so except of the nav component and the title, I have added an alerts component, which will help us to provide some helpful messages to our users. So let's go back to, actually not back, let's open our components reveal in file explorer. Okay, and inside of our let's go to our components folder. So here I want to add a new file from our helper files, again the alerts.php. So if we go back to our browser and refresh, now we are getting also messages. I think that's awesome. So let's click and update. Let's change the Dalton name to John. Update. And as you can see, everything works. So let's go back to users and see if we see all of these users here. So if we go to the last page, so where is John and where is Dalton? Page 6, 103. Interesting. Let's check out what's happening here. So we go to our users. We have our John, Stephen. Okay, so the reason for the reason that we don't see them is, of course, because in our users table we have specified to view only. So if we go to users.php at the very top, so guys, we can remove this stuff from here, we don't need it. And here in the index method, if you remember, in the where clause, we have specified that we want to see only active members. So let's remove that and let's add null so that we can see all of our members, because I guess the last members, as you can see, yeah, here are all inactive. This here, that's why we don't see them. So let's refresh. Let's go to the last page again. And now we can see our John, Karina, and Stephen, which are inactive members. So we can go to John, set him to active, update, and successfully update it. So this is how basically we were able to generate our forms. But okay, we have spent almost 3 hours now to create this stuff. Let's see now a real example. For instance, we have another table that is named projects. So how much time will it take for us to create a basic CRUD for this table? So let's go to our users, to our project. Let's close everything from here. And let's say, let's duplicate the users controller. And remember, projects has more fields, I believe, than users, right? So let's duplicate the users. Let's name it projects. So remember to specify the name of the file, same as your table's name. So otherwise it can cause some issues. So projects. Now I will go through all the, I will select here case sensitive match, and I will go through all users instances, first of all with a capital U. I will change that to project, so it is only one. Now I will go through all user instances, change that to project. Now I will search for the users with a lowercase u, and we'll change it all to projects also. So I believe we have replaced it all users strings that we have. Now inside of our columns, for now, let's leave it an empty array. And for our order, yeah, let's make it null, or no, let's make it PID ascending. Okay, so the rest is the same. Of course, these fields should be changed, but for now what we can do, we can comment all of this and leave it and leave the default values to see what will happen. So let's go back here. Users, no, of course not users. Now we need to go to projects. So invalid file table.php. Yeah, we have to create the views files. And how we can do that? Simply by duplicating the users folder from a view folder. So we save users, and now we want projects. Again, of course, we could use the same files, but these examples are quite simple. So in the real world, there will be some differences. Therefore, I'd suggest you keep each CRUD view files in separate folders or in separate files even. Okay, so cannot open file CRUD app views. Why, man? So closing that. I think it should be fine. So let's check this again. CRUD projects, and here we go. So how about that? How much time did it took us to create this table now? With all the fields, even the search fields are we are able to search using calendars here. Yeah, by default all the fields are being loaded. We can limit that easily now by using our options. So let's go and edit one field. You see, everything here, all of our fields are now auto-generated. Or, of course, we can go back and add a project like that. So now that you know how to create options, you can play with with this form yourself. Just one thing I wanted to tell you. I told you that there is an editor option, and so I want to show you the description. And there is actually one field, so one change that we will have to do. And for those of you, this is a bonus for all of you who stayed until the end. So what we need to specify, so we say fields, p description. So let's say label description, type editor. Okay, so once we specify that as type of editor and we refresh this page, you can see we're getting this awesome summer node editor here inside. The problem is that the summer node editor generates some fields of its own that are being submitted upon a form submission. So one of the fields that we want to prevent from being submitted is the files field. So if you see, if I will try to add this form, so let me check this, and I'll go to add this. I'm getting an unknown column files. So this files is being generated by the summer node editor. I cannot remove it using the summer node options, but what we can do is we can go to CRUD core inside here in the beginning of our parent form and say, so let's take all of this and say here if is set files and set files. Okay, so we can even remove these curly braces from here like that. Okay, and now if I refresh this, we should be fine. So the files field that is being submitted from our summer node editor will be ignored. So let's change also the height to make it a little bit larger. And I think we do that by searching for summer node. Okay, so as the first parameter, we can specify height 150. Yeah, no need to specify pixels. So we just add the number there. And yes, it looks fine. So, guys, this is how fast you can, now that we have already created our library, this is how fast we can really generate now forms, and therefore it doesn't matter how many fields it has. Our library will take care about all of it, so the only thing you have to do after is basically pass the parameters that you want each of your fields to use. So basically the required parameters, the labels, and to specify which form is actually, if some of the fields you want them to be only on the edit page or to completely unset it. And so in the next tutorial we will go through how we can, so for example, this user ID, we will see how we can display actually the user's values here, and so we will see how we can create relational inputs, and it is really easy because everything is quite prepared for that. And we will wrap up, I think, the basic setup of our CRUD library. So see you in the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.